Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Thursday, August 6th, 2020. Those of you joining us from home, welcome. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Harper.
Here.
Ms. Atkins. Here. Mr. Jensen.
Here.
Mayor Abu-Osley.
Here.
Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Ms. Gedalia. Mr. Sternad.
Here. This time we have a moment of silence. Thank you. First on our agenda, we have a presentation. Police Chief Kitzmiller. Okay.
You can face the council. Okay. Of course, they're all over the place. It's hard to do. Yeah, just spin. While I'm talking, you spin. That'll work. There you go. There you go. All right, is that everybody? Everybody squeezed in? Good. Your Honor and members of the council, it's my pleasure tonight to present life-saving awards to two of your officers. On January 3rd, Spencer Hartman and TJ Allen were dispatched on a medical call to the 400 block of 62nd Street related to a fireworks accident. Officer Hartman was the first to arrive. He found the victim with his right arm wrapped up tightly in a sweatshirt. He had multiple lacerations on his body, multiple rips and holes in his clothing. Officer Hartman noticed the fingertips on his other exposed hand were missing. He looked underneath the sweatshirt and he noticed that the victim had actually lost his other hand completely. Officer Hartman began to try to apply a tourniquet. The individual was in shock, started fighting, wrestling with him, wouldn't allow him to put it on. Officer Allen arrived, physically held the guy down so they could get the tourniquet on, which ultimately saved the man's life. Fire department personnel arrived on the scene, further stabilized the victim, and he was transported to the hospital. Perfect guys for this call. They're both SRT members. They both had advanced medical training. They jumped right in when they knew they had to, and they did what they had to do. So it's my pleasure to present these awards to them. We've got pins that go on their Class A uniforms and certificates. So Spencer. I told him we'll take pictures out in the lobby with the family. Thanks, Chief. Yep. TJ Allen. Congratulations. Oh, yeah. There you go. Good job. Thank you. I told them outside they have to explain this picture 30 years from now to their grandchildren and say, hey, that was the first year of the zombie apocalypse, and that's why everybody's wearing masks. Thank you very much for what you did. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for sharing that story with us and for honoring the officers. Okay, at this time, we have a public forum for comments from the public on topics listed on the agenda but not associated with the public hearing this evening. This is a time when members of the public can address the council on any item that is on the agenda but not associated with the public hearing. Items associated with the public hearing do have their own opportunity for comment at that time. So do we have any comments that were received beforehand?
I did not receive any comments prior to the meeting, and it doesn't look like I have any right now either.
Okay. We'll wait just a minute to make sure that no comments come in. Okay, we'll proceed with the meeting, the consent agenda.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda, items A1 through F3, encompassing resolutions 28669 through 28684.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented, including items A1 through F3, resolutions 28669 through 28684. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. I'll turn over the meeting to Mayor Pro Tem.
Your Honor, I move to approve consent agenda with Mayor Abbasli's abstention. Items A1 through E2, resolutions 28685 through 28694.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Abu Asli's abstention. Items A1 through E2, resolutions 28685 through 28694. Are there any questions or discussion on any of these items in the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. The consent agenda is approved. I'll move the meeting back to the mayor.
Thank you, Steve. Next, under the regular agenda, under administrative services, we have a public hearing regarding a proposed development agreement with Victory Sports Center, Inc. The public hearing is now open, and we will have a presentation from Amal.
Recap, Your Honor. The city executed a development agreement with Victory Sports to assist the development of a new facility with an 80% tax rebate for 10 years and a cap of $300,000. Owners were planning on borrowing against this assignment. After talking to their bank, bank wanted to make sure the collateral cover both principal and interest. So owners reach out to staff, asked staff to raise the cap from $300,000 to $350,000. Staff reviewed the proposal and found it to be reasonable and in line with an 80% rebate of the expected TIF that is going to be created by the development. This is an expansion of an existing business into a new business venture.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll take comments from members of the public, either in opposition or in favor of this measure. Have we received any?
I have not received
Comments?
any.
We'll ask staff if you've received any comments prior to this meeting from members of the public.
I have not.
Okay. We'll just hold a few seconds to see if any comments come in during the meeting. Okay, then we will close the public hearing.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 28695, approving development agreement with Victory Sports Center, Inc., authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of this agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28695, approving development agreement with Victory Sports Center, Inc., authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of this agreement. Discussion, questions for staff? Okay, seeing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of resolution number 28695, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I make a motion to receive, file, and discuss presentation from Cedar Rapids Lynn County Solid Waste Agency.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to receive, file, and discuss presentation from Cedar Rapids Lynn County Solid Waste Agency. Discussion? And please remind us what we discussed on Tuesday in terms of what the next action is on this.
Yeah, per the discussion on Tuesday, on the staff side, we're going to draft a letter to the Solid Waste Agency requesting an update related to some of the provisions in the contract that council wanted to get some information from them on before we decided whether to engage in further discussions. So I'm anticipating that we'll draft up that letter this week. I want to make sure that council has a chance to see it before we send it out so that we're getting information on all the provisions in the contract. So look for that Wednesday, Thursday next week.
Okay, any questions or comments? Further discussion at all? All those in favor of the motion to receive, file, and discuss the presentation from the Cedar Rapids County Solid Waste Agency, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to direct staff to establish a community equity working group consisting of 13 members, including the city manager, police chief, 2 city council members, Civil Rights Commission staff liaison, 2 Civil Rights Commission members, 2 Marion Alliance for Racial Equity members, 1 Marion business owner, and 3 members of the city at large.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to direct staff to establish a community equity working group consisting of 13 members, including the city manager, police chief, 2 city council members, Civil Rights Commission staff liaison, 2 Civil Rights Commission members, 2 Marion Alliance for Racial Equity members, and 1 Marion business owner, and 3 members of the city at large. Discussion. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Gadela.
Yeah, so I listened to the recording from the other night and I agreed with the comments that were made after this. My only question is, I think it was Steve that mentioned, or somebody mentioned, allowing others to be able to come in to observe, not participate per se. Obviously, it needs to be an open meeting. If we do that, and we should do that, but I want us to just be careful to make sure that it's secure, because I feel like this could certainly have a draw of multiple different factions coming, and I'm just worried about the politics of things potentially leaking in. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that the meeting is like this and then people can attend remotely, although that's certainly an option, but I would just ask us to be creative and aware of trying to get ahead of a potential problem before it happens, because I think there are a lot of strong opinions about a lot of things that are going on related to this on all sides. So just want to be cautious that we don't create a situation where we're having to, we're not being productive at the meeting because we're worried about other things happening.
Thank you. Good points. Go ahead, Steve.
So the other thing I'd like to clarify, make sure we clarify now, is as Renee's talking about, other people will be able to attend this meeting. Will they be able to make any comments or have any voice? Or are they there just to spectate? I want to make sure we're crystal clear on what that expectation is.
That would be actually identified for each meeting through the agenda setting process. If they're going to be administered as public meetings like this one, the opportunity for the public to have input is structured. So like our agenda for this is set up, there are specific items to allow for public input. So it would be meeting to meeting per the agenda for that particular meeting.
Okay. And certainly, members of the public could always have input through the representatives of the group, city council members, city staff members, members of all the represented groups, outside of these meetings. But I think these are good points and appreciate you bringing them up. Other comments? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, a thought comes to mind that as this group comes to life and perhaps establishes their own operating protocols, as it were, I think it would be useful to be sure that there is some, whether it be via email or if there is perhaps a special submittal page on the city site where our citizens could submit comments or questions to this group in much the same way that they do for city council. So whatever mechanism that might be, I'd like us to understand what that could be.
Okay. Yes.
Just sitting here thinking, should a city attorney be present for these meetings?
Your Honor, I was actually giving this some thought as I looked at this. Really, I think that'd be discretionary with whether it be the council or the city manager, whether we need to be there or not. There are certain panels and committees that meet that legal is regularly a part of. There are certain ones that we just attend upon request.
Right.
I would think this would probably be one. I assume agendas are going to be published ahead of time. And I would just think it'd be something that if you or the city manager thought legal needed to be there for a particular item, then we could make sure that we're available to be there. But I don't necessarily think we need to be there for all meetings.
Okay. I mean, that was my thought also, but thank you for sharing your opinion on it. Is that okay?
Yeah, I just curious. That was.
I think the thought is that this would operate like other boards and commissions, and as Mr. Tang said, that the city attorney will attend a lot of those meetings if there's an issue that requires their input and then they're needed there. So, and I think it would operate in that same way. Yes, Renee?
Just for clarification, would this operate like boards and commissions that actually can affect policy, or would it be more like the our community group formed for COVID? Like, well, this group won't have a budget, nor will they have
not that
any authority to do anything other than make recommendations that the working group would then bring to council. That's my understanding.
Of course, any policy changes would be recommendations to the city council, that's our job to make those decisions. And so this working group is to look at what the data is, look at what the facts are, explore what the issues are in the community, and come up with recommendations for how to address those issues. And any policy changes, any spending matters would have to come to the city council. Is that accurate, Lon? Yeah.
Yeah, if anything that would come out of it would strictly be policy recommendations for the city council.
Right. I mean, there may be recommendations for the Civil Rights Commission, things that they would take on or work on, and those could go directly to the Civil Rights Commission. But policy and spending would have to come to the city council.
And I didn't hear it in the last conversation, but has any thought been put into the frequency of meeting yet, or not until the people are determined?
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far, but go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lon.
Normally, when we create a new group like this one, the first meeting is their organizational meeting, and then at that meeting, they'll decide what meeting frequency they like, pick a date that works for the majority of the members, and then get their schedule and calendars synced up from that point forward.
I would just ask that while this group is forming, because things are so, there's such a spotlight on this particular topic, sorry, if we could have, after they meet on whatever the next council agenda is, if we could just get an update about what happened at the working group, but in a way that we can ask questions, not during the comments at the end. You know, thanks.
Okay. And you can ask questions during the comments at the end, just so it's clear. I mean, yeah, so. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion directing staff to establish the Community Equity Working Group, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. Thank you. Looking forward to the process. Mrs. Sternad.
Yes, Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 28696, supporting and authorizing the submittal of a REAP grant application for $150,000 for the development of the future Prairie Hill Park.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28696, supporting and authorizing the submittal of a REAP grant application for $150,000 for the development of the future Prairie Hill Park. Discussion. All those in favor of resolution number 28696, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. This time we have a public hearing regarding an amendment to the future land use map of the Marion Comprehensive Plan from single-family detached residential to neighborhood commercial, and a rezoning request from A1 rural restricted to BL local business for property located south of Tower Terrace Road and west of Winslow Road. The public hearing is now open. We have a presentation. Sir Treharn.
As identified on this screen, Your Honor, there's a location of a parcel proposed to be rezoned to local business zoning district classification. It's a small parcel located at the south end of Winslow, where it tees in with Tower Terrace Road. You'll note, I would note that on the screen, there's a larger piece of property identified. The boundaries are pretty extensive. The proposed rezoning is a small 2.8 acre piece of that property, which lies in the northwest corner of the overall property. On the agenda tonight is an amendment to the future land use map, as well as a rezoning request for the property to the local business district. The future land use map identified above illustrates the area. To the west of this are the school properties. To the northeast of this is property zoned O1, which is also land use designated for neighborhood commercial, or I'm sorry, it's a business, park, and office. In this area, obviously, it's going to be more office oriented, but that property is zoned O1, which is similar to the B local business district. The local business district is a new zoning district classification, and there are similar uses provided in that area. So there is it is in conformance with zoning in the area, and would make some sense to have that in that area. Obviously, as the land use designated is identified as neighborhood commercial, so we would only want to see something that would provide amenities to the neighborhood. We're not looking to create a large retail center where you'd have drive-throughs and fast food restaurants and such. This is more like what I've identified within the staff report, would be more like 29th Avenue and 10th Street, where You have Parlor City, minus the drive-through, because there wouldn't be a drive-through allowed, but Parlor City and Kepros, that little strip center. So it'd be something similar of that nature is what we envision the area to be developed as. We are currently not, we do not have a proposal for the property at this time. And, but we do, and generally ask that there's some concepts that are provided to kind of illustrate the idea for the property and what would be envisioned for it. I think at the next slide, you can, the blue area is the area identified to be rezoned. The next slide will be concepts. And you can see that piece of property would be accessed through the intersection of Winslow and Tower Terrace Road, and would provide the opportunity for a couple of buildings to be placed on the property. There is severe elevation change at the back side of the property, so there are some elevation, or there are some indication of floodplain. I do believe that that's relevant. It's identified primarily because you take the floodplain map and you overlay it, and those floodplain maps need to be detailed out. And so at such time, there'd be a engineered drawing that would be clarified, and we would not provide the opportunity to develop within the floodplain unless certain parameters were in place. And I doubt if they would. I doubt if this area would be impacted by the floodplain. As we talk about the local business district, you can see the types of uses that are provided for on the screen. So there is some opportunity for mixed use development where you could have upper story residential development over retail. You know, you've got coffee shops, financial institutions, personal services, haircut, nail salon, business professionals. So if you had a financial investment person, Edward Jones, something like that would be available. Small retail shops and specialty shops. Restaurants are provided with a conditional use permit. So if someone wanted to open a restaurant, they'd have to go through a process to get a conditional use permit. And at this point, there are no drive-throughs allowed in the local business district. And that's primarily to keep the areas like this to service the area directly adjacent to them, and it's not really intended to be a destination shopping. So tonight there's a public hearing on both the land use plan amendment as well as the rezoning request. I just remind the council, and I haven't done this in a while, but the land use plan is the document upon which the city's zoning ordinance is regulated by. So we develop and we enter into a public outreach process every 10 years or so, in which we go to the community and ask for what folks want to see, and we develop our future land use map for the city based on that input. And so we're working with a future land use map that's 10 years old. And so we are going to see some amendments to that plan document, understanding, and I know there's probably some council members that are saying we really need to get that comp plan updated, and you are correct. So we're working towards that, but it does lead to having to make some amendments when you get to the end of the 10 years. So in order to zone the property to a commercial or a retail zoning district, we have to amend that portion of the comp plan to be reflective of it. So we don't like to do that a lot, and I know we have lately, so I just wanted to bring that to the attention that we're working off our long range plan that's 10 years old. So we'll be amending that or proposing to amend that, and then we're working into the zoning to support that tonight. And the zoning obviously is the ordinance. That's what's going to drive the standards, how the buildings lay on the property, the architectural detail included in the property, signage, parking numbers, and landscaping. So I just haven't brought some of that up in a while, and I thought I would just do a little refresher. Are there any questions on the proposal?
Well, we're in the public hearing, so can you just stick around for the actual motion?
I would say, just one last comment. On Tuesday, there was a question regarding how the commission voted on this, and I think I said I'd come back with the answer, and it was all ayes. So it was approved unanimously at the Planning Commission, recommended for approval. So
thanks for looking that up. Okay, Tom, will you just be available if there's questions? Okay. Have we reached, at this time, comments will be taken from the public, either in favor or in opposition of this measure. Have we received any during the meeting?
I have not received anything.
Okay. Have we received any comments outside the meeting? Tom, Lon? Okay. wait just a minute. Anything? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, move on to the resolution.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 28697, approving amendment to the future land use map of Marion Comprehensive Plan from single-family detached residential to neighborhood commercial for property located south of Tower Terrace Road and west of Winslow Road.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28697, approving amendment to the future land use map of the Marion Comprehensive Plan from single-family detached residential to neighborhood commercial for the property located south of Tower Terrace Road and west of Winslow Road. Discussion, questions? Yes.
Yes, so all of the property we have on the western part of Tower Terrace, even with the new construction going up, is great. I love the design standards we used. Will those stretch to this area with this rezoning?
So yes, there are conditions for architectural standards as well as, and what we did, and I mentioned this on Tuesday, is I noticed they weren't highlighted in the staff report, and I noted that I'd go back and look at the ordinances, and I did pull the ordinances from Tower Terrace and the 01, which is just north and east, and there were some architectural standards that were similar throughout, so those are included in it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All those in favor of resolution number 28697, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 20-10, approving rezoning from A1 rural restricted to BL local business for property located south of Tower Terrace Road and west of Winslow Road. This is the initial consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 20-10, approving the rezoning from A1 rural restricted to BL local business for the property located south of Tower Terrace Road and west of Winslow Road. Discussion? All those in favor of ordinance number 20-10, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion's approved. This time we have a public forum for comments from members of the public on any item that was not on this agenda.
We have the department discussion.
Oh, did I miss something? Oh, I'm sorry. We will go back. We have a fire department discussion regarding an issue with the fire hose. Sorry about that, Chief. And that'll be followed by an update regarding the fire station project.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. Good to be back in front of you again. Not necessarily under these circumstances, but nevertheless. This is not a huge monetary issue. However, it's an issue that we face in the fire service with our fire hose, and it's a little unfortunate, but I'll give you some background, just an explanation of why we're here tonight. Chief Crable asked me to present this, but arguably, our fire hose is probably our most important tool in the fire service. It was around long before our SCBAs and breathing apparatus. When crews are on the end of the nozzle and they pull the bail, they have an expected water flow that they want to have. Likewise, our pump operators have a expected water pressure that they have to supply to those interior crews. And that's based on a formula out of Iowa State as far as required water flows. Not only are the hoses used for extinguishment purposes, but they're used to protect the lives. It's the lifeline of the firefighters inside for flashover and exploding material purposes. We're taking this seriously and trying to resolve it quickly. The slideshow is started. So I added out-of-date hose. We have some hose that's out of date. I added this merely not to show that it's defective, just that we have some hose that's budgeted for, and it's just a small portion of the amount of hose we're gonna have to purchase along. So it's really taking more stock out of our stock. So I added that, and we currently have 29% of our 2.5 supply of tack hose, which is this larger section here, that is out of date and will be out of service. We do have monies budgeted for that. And we'll be able to take care of that. And I broke it down also to let you know that the city and township both own hose that we store in stock. We discovered this in mid-July. One of our battalion chiefs was kind of walking by one of the racks, and we have our hose rolled in single donut rolls, and he walked by the rack and saw what I simply call a pucker. It looks like a pucker factor. It's just like somebody puckering up to kiss you or whatever, and we have that. And when we were looking, our defective hose, 15% of our 1 3/4 hose, which what Chief Crable has here, is that. You can see that, and that's a mild one, and I'll explain why. The blue section that she brought up here is more severe, but I'll explain why that one's not as bad. 20 sections of city hose that we've purchased is defective. 15% is essentially 1 in every 7 pieces of hose we have. There's 11% of our 2.5 supply hose that has been defective. I'm currently in contact with the vendor previous to that because the 2.5 is actually still under warranty that is occurring too. Next slide, please. There's a picture of it. The blue hose is similar to the blue hose we have here. The red one's not so much. But essentially, hose construction, it's a double jacketed hose. There's an outer hose, like what Chief Crable has here. This red is the outer jacket. This white is the inner jacket. But inside the inner jacket is a liner. It can be plastic or rubber. When that starts to peel out on the very inside, that's called delamination. We thought we had delaminating going on. We do not. What the 5-inch section of supply hose is there, that is delamination the chief has. We have more of just a inner jacket, outer jacket defect that's going on. Next slide, please. And that's the 2.5 section. It's actually the section I brought tonight because in the second photo there on the right, you'll notice I'm pointing at something further down the hose. And that's why this is such a serious thing to address, because what we see here is what we see, but these 50-foot sections of hose, we don't see what's further on down the hose or how far this goes down the hose. This section, however, that clump is, a couple feet down here, and you can feel it. And so we don't know where that goes or where it occurs. Essentially, I showed this to Lon earlier. He has not seen this. He knew of it, but he had not seen it. And his first thing was, well, I can see where that's going to block water. And it does. Next slide, please. So steps we've taken since discovery. We had a very well-versed, I would call them a hose expert, come in to assure us that our decision to remove this hose immediately from service was correct. He assuringly confirmed that, yes, that this is hose that they had a similar purchased lot, is what we call one buy, just a purchased lot, and they pulled it from service as well. We flow tested the hose. We took it, each individual section, put it on our engine, had the same engine, same nozzle at the end. We flow tested it. The 1 3/4 hose that for a standard 150 gallons per minute, we're testing 5 to 20 gallons per minute less. The 2.5 for a standard of 250 gallons per minute, we're testing 5 to 10 gallons per minute less. This was per section. We actually have 4 of these tied together on each one of our pre-connects. So you're losing anywhere from 20 to possibly 80 GPMs per minute. And when you're relying on a 200, let's just say, for instance, we're relying on 250 gallons per minute. If we're losing 20% of that, that's 50. So we're only flowing 200 gallons per minute. Remember what I said, these water flows to put fires out is based on the height, width, and length of buildings. And if we're expecting 250 while flowing 200, we're fighting a losing battle potentially. We contacted vendors. I already previously mentioned this, but these are part of the steps that we've taken. I've contacted the previous vendor of this hose that we purchased in 2017, and I'm working on a warranty as we speak. And part of my discussion with one of their representatives today is going to be some justification of things I mentioned here at the end of the presentation. Change of vendor, they changed hose company suppliers. So what used to be an all-American hose is now snap-tight hose. It gets kind of complicated when it comes to this purchasing. How did we get to this point? Changing technology and varying construction of hose manufacturers. Older hose, some of the hose when Chief Craig and I both started, we had cotton jacketed rubber lined hose. There's a rubber liner on the inside, cotton jacket on the outside, indestructible, lasted forever. Actually, I think that's some that we're retiring that is past the service date is some of our leftover. But they have gone to, the next phase was in the polyester outer jacket, thermoplastic polyurethane liner. It made hose lighter weight, easily cleaned. It can be reloaded without hanging to dry. We could use it at a fire scene. It's wet, that's fine. It's polyester, we put it back on the truck. Great sales point, but it doesn't last. Lighter, easier for firefighters, you know, you can be reloaded. You don't have to hang it to dry. It doesn't have near the maintenance until you look at the life service on it, service of life on it. Previous purchasing that we've done, next slide, Rachel, that might be is that the last one? Okay, all right. I'll still do on how we got to this point. Previous purchasing that we've done were based on small lot orders spread out through many different years. We believed in small purchases and not as much money spent in one chunk, so we bought hose every 3 years, small orders, replace them, kind of keep a replacement chain going. Currently, the inventory of our inch 3/4 hose has been purchased in 11 different lots from 1991 to 2015. So we've done this 11 different times in that time frame. So we have 11 different lots of hose, 11 different companies potentially, 11 different vendors, different ways that the hose is constructed itself. It's unknown how many companies and vendors. Companies may change hose companies, like I just previously mentioned. So what are our options in resolving this? And these are obviously just recommendations, and we're going to put together a more inset plan to bring back to council and run by Lon and Leanne and Zach as far as it comes to budgetary things. I need to put this down to put myself. Returning to a rubber lined inner jacketed hose. Believe that we get more bang for our buck out of that. Your polyester plastic materials, a lot of those are manufactured or purchased overseas. Don't know what you're getting. It gets then into a company, then they bring the material across. It's all constructed differently. Also placing a life expectancy on our hose on a 10-year plan, which matches warranties provided by manufacturers. Typically, you can get a 10-year warranty on hose. If that's our expected lifespan, then it matches the warranty. NFPA 1961 recommends a 10-year life expectancy for fire hose used under normal conditions. That's great. And one thing our hose expert mentioned us and reminded us, we live in Iowa. Hoses on concrete in 90 to 100 degree days. It's out in the elements when it's sub-0 degree temperatures and has water in it, freezing, expanding, things like that. So we don't typically work under normal conditions as far as when we have our hoses out. And you know, the old saying goes, the coldest day of the year and the hottest day of the year, you can guarantee you're gonna have calls. It's just the way it goes in the fire service. Possibly purchasing our hose on a 25 or 50% split every 5 to 10 years, split it up. Instead of having all these small lots and buying small lots and different companies, make larger purchases at one time and then have it fall on the 5 or 10 years. We go to that type of life expectancy, so it all is more on a regular rotation. Something I would recommend and that I'm going to ask, and this is where we get into the budgetary purposes, using single source purchasing to eliminate the number of vendors, hose companies, and types of hose construction involved. A lot of things come into play with that when you start dealing with different vendors, different companies, different construction. This will be an example I show you here soon, why I brought a coupling along. But we do things, years ago we did a main overall purchase for our SCBA breathing apparatus because we had 3 different types and when it come to maintenance and getting them fixed. They were all MSAs, but they were all different styles of MSAs, and so it just got to be a pain. So that's one thing I would highly recommend, to be a single source purchasing supplier for our fire hose in the future. What I want to show you here then, my last item I want to show you in the importance of single source purchasing is, this is a Pierce, our apparatus, Pierce apparatus. This is a Marion cut. We're unique, we're special. Ask Todd, we've got special cuts on our hydrants. So we don't get our water stolen from us supposedly, but we have them. So this is a Pierce cut. It's a 3078 on 6 threads per inch cut. It's a machined cut, right? So it's a machined cut. However, on this hose, I take this machine cut and this machine cut. And that's all I can get on. I don't know if you can all see that, but I start it and it's stuck. I don't even get a quarter turn on that thread. And you have a brass or stainless steel cut versus a hot metal versus a, it's just different materials that don't combine together. Now, however, I take the same cut that's on this, the female end of this hose, and dry it on. So it's on, and that's what makes this difficult when you go to different vendors and different buying. You get a lot of hose in, like a lot of hose in. We'll take a coupling off the truck, and we actually spin every coupling, but we don't do that on every apparatus. We don't do it to every lot of hose. We just take a coupling and make sure the hoses work. But then we take a piece of hose from this vendor that we have and now try and put it on another machine cut thread, and they just don't match up. That's my spiel on the hose. Any questions?
Any questions on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, so that inner liner, you said that was either plastic or rubber. When that starts to delaminate, can that, under pressure with water flow, can that be deformed enough with the water flow that it would tear off and ultimately jam a nozzle?
Yes, sir. Jam a nozzle, go into the impeller strainer on the truck. If it's on, it's like 5 inch on supply, it pushes into the intake on the truck, shuts the whole truck down. Yeah.
Okay, so that was something that was going through my mind. The other question I have is the exterior material. You said the ones that don't last as long, they're polypropylene?
The inner, polypropylene plastic.
Oh, okay. And then the outside covering?
The polyester.
Polyester?
Nylon's coming back versus the polyester.
Is it? So I was curious about abrasion resistance and melt resistance.
That's one thing you won't get away from very often. The hose companies will tell you that. Abrasion is going to be abrasion. That's why when they tell us we're moving our hose, we drag it on the flat side, because once you start it on the rough side, it's going to cut, whether it's nylon or polyester. That's just the pressure and the pinpoint on it. It's going to tear it up on concrete. So it's always flat, spread out your surface area.
Okay, so this is a life safety critical piece of equipment.
Yeah. Yep. And thanks for bringing that up, Councilperson Harper, because that's why I was going to remind you when Chief was walking us around. This one's not as prevalent because if you notice, when we cut this hose off, for an example, we cut it straight across. But you see how this inner liners come out about 1/2 inch, and that's why it's not as prevalent on this side, because once we cut that, it relieved that pressure and it moved back. And that, similar to what you're saying about the inside liner, when it delaminates, this could potentially do the same thing, and why I showed you the example that's down there. Because once it starts going, then it's got the potential to bunch. And not to get into firefighting terms, but you have friction loss. Anytime you're pumping water, you have a certain amount of friction loss. And what that does, what this also creates, that's why our pump, we flow tested it, because when that liner's loose in there, has flex and give, it creates turbulence. And then we aren't getting the same flows out the end, and that's what that loose liner does as well. Even if it may not clump and bunch and immediately stop it, it severely affects the flow of the water through the hose.
Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, so it sounds like you mentioned you want to go back to the hoses, the old school hoses that are rubber inside. But I just wanted to hear what the drawbacks to that were other than weight.
Nothing really, it's weight. And a lot of the new hose companies and new hoses coming out are going back to a rubber lined hose because there's a big push in the fire service, not necessarily at Marion Fire, but of a non-kink hose where you can flow it at lower pressures and still get the same amount of volume. And your hose doesn't kink like when you go stand it or bend it around door corners. It won't kink near like some of this does at times.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Go ahead. So can you clarify in the past how we have purchased these? You said we had a variety of vendors, and obviously those are not all going to fit. The quality isn't going to be the same.
Low bid purchasing.
So we were required to do low bid purchasing. Okay, so I will go on record to say there are times the city gets a poor quality product by having to use that method. So I can't imagine our police department going out and getting the lowest cost gun that they can get. Okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's a pretty essential item for the police department. Just like Grant's talking about, This is absolutely essential that you guys know how these are going to work, how they're going to fit, and you have 100% confidence in them. So utilizing a single source purchasing makes absolute sense to me. I would support that all the way.
Anything? Okay, so is there a forthcoming action on this?
Yeah, when we get a set detailed plan together, like I said, we want to go over things with Lon and Zach and Leanne as far as budgetary things and how we can roll this out and put together. I mentioned a couple things here, shortening the life service or the life expectancy of our hose. I mean, right now we have NFPA, as long as it service tests well, lets you go back to 1987. We don't have any inch and 3/4 hose that old, but this obviously isn't going to hold up, and it's showing it doesn't hold up. So we'd like to propose a life expectancy, how we purchase these lots instead of doing them smaller, more years. I'd like to do it, 5 to 10 years and bigger lots, and then flow test it.
Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, just one question I have. So for those hoses that have been identified as defective, those are going out of service? And so that still leaves you with enough hose to have simultaneous operations?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one thing I'm sorry I didn't mention. This is my last slide here. There's a total 26 total sections of hose. At roughly, I had some quotes. Chief and I actually looked when we were looking at some of these newer styles of hose a year ago. We had it priced out to replace our whole lot of hose at the fire station was going to be like roughly $73,000, but half of that's township owned. So a full swap out of, if we had to replace everything, which we do not, it'd be $36,000 roughly. So we have 26 sections at it's just under $200 a section of hose, 185 to 195, depending on inch and 3/4, 2.5. Right now, we're looking at a $5,200 fee to replace the defective stuff.
That's why we brought it to your attention. This is an unbudgeted item that we find that we're gonna have to replace immediately. So that's why we wanted to bring it to your attention so that you understood how important it is that we somehow find the monies to do this.
Any additional questions? Yes, go ahead, Will.
Is that cost, the 5,200, is that replacing with the same type of hose, or is that going back to the old school rubber and
That's going with the newer hose that we've had quoted out.
which is the old
school
rubber
rubber
type?
line.
Okay.
It won't be cotton jacket though. It won't.
Which makes it heavier.
Yeah, and especially when it's wet.
Okay, additional questions? Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'll throw one in here. So the hose that's currently under warranty, then are we looking at then a replacement on that? Or are we looking at a depreciated value that we can be recompensated for so that we can go forward with the complete replacement?
I'll need to ask those questions when the vendor gets back to me. I reached out to him today, he forwarded that to the company maker, like I said, and he left me a voicemail. I was in my office, but he said, we no longer are with American Hose, but we stand by our product. So it might be a snap type product. I don't know what the deal is for sure or what they're going to offer, but that I got a phone call back today. You just need to keep that conversation rolling.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief, will you be updating us on the fire station? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of the council, we've been trying to, we had an agreement with CCI, the construction company building our new station. We told them we want to be able to give the council an update every month on the progress of our project. And they were behind in getting us those reports. So we finally got a report, and if you saw it, it was dated the first part of July. Well, I apologize, I went on vacation when you had council the last time, so I wasn't able to present it in a timely manner. So this update is actually behind. But we had a meeting Wednesday, and I have even a better update, but I wanted you to understand, I think I told you last time that we were maybe 3 weeks behind in the construction. They think they've eliminated that. They think they're back up on schedule. So that's a great thing. The reason we didn't see a lot of work before, go ahead, is some of the work that you'll see, they like to put their safety hours, which is really good. At our last meeting, in fact, they had no violations, and they wanted everybody to know that. So you know that. It is a great company. They are very good at keeping the site safe. They don't let anyone on without hard hats. They're very strict, so that's a good thing. So as you see is this list here of what's been happening, most of what was happening was actually underground, like the coils for the heating systems and things like that. So that's why we didn't see a lot of progress for a long time. But now we see the building going up, and actually we have more done than what that even says. The exterior frame is 90%. The concrete on the interior is supposed to be finished this week, by tomorrow. The liquid vapors are 60% complete. The wood decking is 100% complete. The roof completion should be in the next 2 weeks. And the in-floor heat coils are all complete. So go ahead. So they wanted to show us some of the pictures of the construction. As you can see, the heat coils, that takes a lot of time. And that's where they got behind, actually, due to the weather and other unforeseen circumstances. So it's coming right along. Sunday, I was showing my family how it was coming along, and I was driving by and I saw a fire truck and a battalion chief truck and a medic truck all parked there. I thought, So I go by and they're all walking through it. So I yelled at them, you know, get out. I didn't say who I was, scared them to death, but they're all really anxious for this project and they're really excited, which is neat to see. So this project's moving right along. So just some pictures to show you that. I think Amal also handed out the status report to each of you. And as you'll see, we're all on track again. We're on track for budget, for resources, the timeline, and the scope. So everything's in green. Good things are happening. So we're really excited, and that's my update. And do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's really a lot further along than these pictures show.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really made a lot of progress in the last couple of
last
weeks.
month.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's wonderful.
Great. Thank you for the update. Any questions for the chief?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, now we'll move on to the public forum, which is a time for questions or comments from members of the public on any item. We received any?
I did receive one prior to the meeting. I have it on the next slide here. I have forwarded it to you. It's from Linda Miller at 4001 North 10th Street, and it's in regards to the sidewalk ramp project.
Okay. Everyone received that email?
I might have, but I didn't see it. I haven't been able to check my email since like lunch.
It was
so,
at 4 o'clock today. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Anything else?
I did not receive anything else.
All right, well, we'll take a look at the email and respond to Mrs. Miller. Okay, if there are no other comments from the public, move on to public comments. Steve?
None.
Randy?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I would like to just once again thank Officers Hartman and Officer Allen for their measures and what they do. Chief Kitzmiller, in your presentation today. It just goes to show how the SRT program is a collaboration between the departments and educating the police officers, to be able to take these critical patients, obviously somebody who's missing limbs and hands and et cetera like that, allows them to take those first responses at that moment, just as if though our firefighters would be put into harm's way in a hostile environment. So it's very exciting for me. I lean towards the public service area with some background in this, and so it's very encouraging to see how these programs and how this training is actually already starting to pay off. So for this gentleman that was a recipient of that horrific accident, we're very fortunate that we were able to provide those first responders with the tools that were needed. So we hate to think that we would need those, but nonetheless we do. So that's life. So anyway, just wanted to congratulate them, congratulate the department, and anytime we can save a life, that's a success. So kudos to those folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Colette.
I don't have anything tonight.
Renee. Okay. We'll move on to the closed session.
Mayor, I make a motion. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the closed session regarding litigation as permitted under section 21.5, subsection 1C of the Code of Iowa.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the closed session regarding litigation as permitted under section 21.51C of the Code of Iowa. And we have the attorney's statement, please.
Yes, Mayor. I have reviewed the subject matter that is the basis of the motion. And I do believe that according to Iowa Code section 21.5, subparagraph 1, subparagraph C, that it is an appropriate subject matter to be discussed in closed session and recommend that the council adjourn accordingly.
Okay. Any discussion before we vote? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harper,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mr. Jensen,
Yes.
Mayor Abu-Osley,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Ms. Cadelia,
Yes.
Mr. Sternad.
Yes.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned to closed session. We'll return to open session on completion. Thank you for joining us.